Hey everybody, this is Professor Diffley. This is History 114, the history of Springfield, Massachusetts. So this is Module 3 we're in now. So this is the first lecture video of Module 3. So in Module 2 we were talking about the area around Springfield, the region before first contact, before European colonization. So we focused, starting in the end of the last ice age all the way up. Really to about the 1600s. So what we're going to focus on in this module is what we're going to call the colonial era, right up to 1760. And here what we're going to see is we're going to look at both Native Americans, the colonization of Europeans into America, especially the English who settled this area, as well as the French too, but mostly the English. But we're also going to still talk about the Native Americans from this region. The focus here is going to be, what is the impact of colonization? What's the impact of the interactions between the two groups, the Europeans, English specifically, and Native Americans? And then we're going to look at what are the consequences of that. What's going to happen to the native peoples from this area as something, you can see from the learning goals and objectives and all that. And if you know that even a general history is there's going to be wars between the native peoples and the English. And so that's one of the questions being what happened to those people? Where'd they go as a result, leaving them from the war? So again, this module, you get, like all of them, you get 2 weeks. There's a blog assignment and an exam for this. A couple things here. Definitely do the required reading. It looks like a lot, but again, each of these is I think the most is 3 pages. A lot of them are even less than that. There is no required textbook in here. These mini little essays are the text for this. And so a lot of the information that we're going to cover comes from this material there. The other thing is to, as always, but yeah, make sure you read these, the French, all of them here. They're very good sites, and especially local history is what they cover. There's also the required videos, as always. So for some of this, for the expansion, Native Americans and the Spanish, and even French and Dutch. I'll talk about it a little bit. It is covered in the reading. It is definitely covered in the slides. But these videos, these Khan Academy, the one Khan Academy, and the 3 crash course videos here do an excellent job of covering this. So I'm gonna go through it quickly in the slides so that you can watch these, so you're not watching too much video. But these are really good background that sets up what happens, what are the motivations, for expansion, the consequences of it. Really puts a lot of this in context, and that's a real key, because no matter what happens in the Springfield area, around what is Springfield, that region, in history, you still need context for it, right? It just does not happen in a bubble. So take a look at those. The going down a little further, there's some more videos here. So this one, the 44-minute one, you actually don't have to watch the whole thing. But go through it, because I will cover the Pequot War and the Massacre at Mystic. There is a good part of this in the beginning that gives us some good visuals on this, so that will really help. Other things here, the Khan Academy videos on society and religion is good. This will go into more of the religion of the Puritans and Pilgrims, and this one, the politics and native relations. This one more here at the bottom is, in case you wanted a little bit more, it is covered in the natives and the English, and when is Thanksgiving. But again, if you wanted a little bit more, this is covering the same ground, but a little differently. So take a look there. All right, so let's jump into the slides, because that's what we're going to do. So this is the Module 3 slides. As always, I'm going to go through these here. What are we looking at? Right, we're pretty much starting 1492, all the way to the 1760. Skipped ahead there, didn't mean to do that. So back to the start page here on this. So this just runs through the topics that will include here. Again, we go up to 1760s. The next module before, will be the Revolutionary Era and the early Republic. And that will start, we usually start thinking about the Revolutionary Era for the United States in the 1760s. But it gives you a good overview of the main topics here. Again, look at the excuse me, take a look at the key terms, I'm sorry, and the learning goals and objectives as well for some, what to focus on here. So just starting out here, one of the things that, is really going to make up a bulk of what's going to happen is these two groups interacting, right? And they're going to have very different views of the world, very different cultures, very different civilizations, that sort of thing. I mean, one of the things is going to be the ideas of freedom. They're going to be very, very different between the groups, right? Native Americans, it was more group autonomy. You had more kinship ties as more important there. You had these mutual obligations. It was a much more equal society. One of the things the Europeans are going to notice and write about and comment upon with Native Americans is that they never found anybody destitute, no paupers, no homeless folks amongst the Native Americans. So there was that mutual obligation. You did have individual and personal freedom, but it was also again within this group mentality. So you did have it. You often had a little bit more freedom than you can find in some of the Europeans at this point. But yeah, they're going to have very different views of the world, very different understandings of what's important, what the world works, and that's obviously going to when you have those two differences, going to lead to some clashes here, to say the least. And as always, remember to take a look at the notes into the slides. There's also more information there. For the Europeans, it's a much different idea of freedom and liberty than we have today. This was more, going back to the 15th, 16th centuries. You had this idea of Christian liberty, right? So this is not really, there's no concept of religious freedom as there is today, none whatsoever. Usually you were the religion, whatever the monarch was in your country, that was the view of things. So the idea of Christian liberty was you have this freedom to accept Christ. This is really what it is, and free to become His servant, right? So you have a choice there. Your freedom is to choose to live according to religion or not, and so you can see there it's not exactly what we would call freedom today. And again, they didn't have it because it's a rigid social hierarchy. Your rights, they're more looked at as privileges in many ways, right? They're determined by your status. So the higher social economic status you are, the more privileges and rights. And there was this expectation that you defer to your social betters, your social superiors, right? The people in a higher economic social class are better. That is really the view of how they had that, right? There was no sense of equality back then. There was a belief that inequality is natural and necessary, right? It is there because some people are just better, and we should defer to those who are better. How do we know they're better? They're richer than us and they have more power. Again, it's, there's a reason why we don't use it today. It doesn't, fully fit our worldview, but again, that's the view. Again, it was inequality is natural and ever present. And so, if that's how the Europeans are going to view people within their own society, you can take guess on how some of them will view the native peoples who are outside of it, and drastically different. And again, liberty and liberties for the few, right? Again, there's it's almost like a pyramid. Europe at this time. The further up you go, the less people there are in power. Who hold power. And so those liberties are really for the few, right? Not for the many, for the few. It's a select class there. And this gives you an idea of the economic system, social and economic system, right? Very, very hierarchical. Again, the top part of the pyramid, the social economic, maybe 5%, maybe 10% in some places, but the vast majority at the bottom is the common folk, right? And even the knights and vassals are going away to a degree, but there is still a class in there. So this is very much like a pyramid. The people on the bottom have the most burdens and the least amount of power there. So this just shows some of the initial European voyages. Again, this is going to be covered a lot in those crash course videos, so I don't want to go through a ton of it. But this is really where the original voyages to the Americas are. Right, you can see one of the interesting things here with Columbus is he never actually makes it to mainland Americas in his first voyage in 1492. Right, he actually ends up in the islands around here. And just some more images here. This is as the Portuguese sailed around Africa to get to India, to get to the east, Far East. What is their goal in doing this? And this will be one thing I'll cover here. It's also in there in the videos. But find a sea route to East India, to India, China, what they called the East Indies there. This is really about economic and trade. It's profit and piety, and that means the piety, religiousness. So the view was that those things jump together, right? They go hand in hand. And that was true of for many of the Catholics as well as the Protestants, the Puritans and others, right? Why? Well, because a lot of the trade at this point was overland, coming from the east, and then even in the Mediterranean over here, you would have Muslim traders there, the middlemen, and so part of this was an idea to, hurt their empires, the Ottoman here, by cutting them out of the trade, right? So it would benefit Christianity. It would also, be a blow in the religious part of this war, a religious conflict idea. So that is their goal there. And we're going to see all of them have sort of a profit there. And there is also motive, and there's also at least lip service, if not for some it truly is a motivation of a religious goal for all of this. So just Columbus and first contact, his voyages. Let's just deal with some of the Columbus myths real quick. And again, this will be other stuff will be covered in the crash course. Columbus didn't think the world was flat. Nobody thought really the world was flat. That was proved by the ancient Greeks that it wasn't flat. So why do we tell that myth now, right? It makes it seem more heroic, things like that. But indeed, sailors for a while, for a long time in human history, were afraid to go over the horizon, right? If you're standing on a beach, you're looking out on the water, you get over the horizon. If you go over the horizon, you'll lose sight of land. Now, that translates easily into the myth of and the fear that you're going to fall off the earth or something like that. That's not what they're afraid of. They're afraid of going over the horizon and not being able to find their way home. It's before anything like a GPS system exists. It's still, for a long time, it's really only in the centuries so before this, where you're starting to get accurate and really useful ability to navigate by the stars at sea. So there was a fear of going over the horizon. Usually ships stuck close to shore so they can keep in sight of land, and it was easier to travel that way. So again, didn't think the world was flat at all. If anything, Columbus, what he did was he did make a geographical error. It was that miscalculated the size of the earth, right? He really did believe that he could go across what was the Atlantic and get to Japan, get to China, because that's how, but missed that there was two continents there. Most people did, even though there is evidence that Columbus knew that the Vikings had been to North America and others. There are plenty of stories about that, but again, a lot of the myths we tell, and that's part of what the blog is about this week, is a different myth. But these myths make things seem more heroic. It's something that happens in in history, gives these stories a little bit more power, things like that. So his goals, again, it is he is an Italian serving the Spanish. His goal is to find new land for the Spanish, cut out the not find new land, new trading opportunities. There's even a talk of Columbus has a religious motivation here. One thought is that he had expressed at one point was converting the Chinese to Christianity and then having them use this new Christian power and empire to take out and conquer the Holy Lands. Going back to this idea of the Crusades. Why the Crusades in his mind? There were the Crusades to the Middle East were not really successful, but there were also Crusades in Europe. In Spain, it was called the Reconquista, where they drove what they called the Moors, but it was the North African Muslims who had controlled Spain for centuries. It's actually the year 1492 is the end of the Reconquista. That's actually why Ferdinand and Isabella the Spanish send Columbus and others out on these explorations as a celebration of this. But that is considered part of the this holy wars that they are having. So that's his goals, is that economics and religion both there. And again, this is about the Reconquista there. Actually, again, you will see all this in the video. It's going to talk about this, things like that. One thing I will add here before we end is, once the news of Columbus's voyages happened, it spread far and wide. Why? The printing press, right? Now you can get this information further and further afield. And, also there's imperial and national competition in Europe. And so people are motivated countries are motivated to send, and these are some of the famous, explorers, conquerors from this era. And again, if you look in the notes, there's a good definition for each one there. But again, a lot of this is covered in the videos. So actually, I'm going to end it here. We'll pick up in lecture video 2 here, starting with the